Welcome to our channel. Today we dive into the shadowy realms of ancient civilizations to uncover the terrifying mythical monsters that once haunted their stories and fears. From monstrous beasts lurking in sacred temples to legendary creatures that shaped myths and warned of doom, these fearsome entities reveal the dark imagination and beliefs of early cultures. Join us as we count down the top 10 mythical monsters that terrorized ancient civilizations, creatures whose legends still send chills through history. Prepare yourself for a journey into ancient nightmares you won't forget. Let's begin. Guardian of the Cedar Forest, Humbaba in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In the ancient Mesopotamian masterpiece, the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the most iconic and fearsome figures is Humbaba, the guardian of the cedar forest. A terrifying and divine monster created by the gods, Humbaba stood as a symbol of untamed nature, divine order and mortal challenge. Described as having a face that induced terror and a breath that brought death, he was not simply a beast, but a force of sacred power, a protector of the realm where gods walked among towering, sacred trees. The story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu's journey to slay Humbaba serves as a crucial episode in their heroic arc, representing the confrontation between civilization and the wild, humanity and divinity, ambition and humility. Humbaba's death is not only a physical victory but also a spiritual transgression with consequences that ripple through the rest of the epic. This essay explores who Humbaba was, his symbolic role in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the nature of his terrifying characteristics, his confrontation with Gilgamesh and Enkidu, and the deeper themes embedded in his presence and eventual defeat. Humbaba, the Divine Guardian. Humbaba, also called Huwawa in earlier Sumerian texts, was appointed by the god Enlil, the king of the gods, to guard the cedar forest, a sacred realm considered the dwelling place of divine beings. This forest, situated far beyond the boundaries of human civilization, was a space where mortals were forbidden to tread. Its trees were colossal, unique, and holy, their wood precious, their existence maintained by divine will. As its guardian, Humbaba was a threshold figure. He stood between mortals and the sacred, protecting the boundaries that should not be crossed. Humbaba's divine appointment meant that he was not a rogue monster or a chaotic force. Rather, he embodied divine ferocity, the idea that nature, under divine rule, could be just as dangerous and awe-inspiring as any god. His very being was meant to instill fear. Ancient tablets describe Humbaba's face as monstrous, a visage so dreadful it could paralyze enemies with fright. Some versions describe it as twisted, grotesque, or made up of coiled intestines, meant to confuse and horrify. His roar was like a flood, and his breath was death itself, often interpreted as some kind of supernatural poison or fatal exhalation that could kill any who approached too closely. He was not a brute beast but a living deterrent to hubris. His presence warned against mortal overreach into divine territory. The ambition of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, was part god and part man, renowned for his strength, wisdom, and arrogance. Early in the epic he is described as restless and tyrannical, a ruler who abused his power. To temper his behavior, the gods created Enkidu, a wild man formed from clay and raised among animals. Their eventual friendship transforms Gilgamesh, and together they seek meaning and immortality through deeds of legendary heroism. One such deed is their proposed journey to the cedar forest to confront and kill Humbaba. Gilgamesh's motivations are layered. On the surface he seeks fame and glory by slaying a divine monster. Deeper still, he wants to prove his dominance over both man and god, to assert control over a world filled with chaos and limits. Their decision to go after Humbaba is therefore not only about valor, it is an act of spiritual rebellion. The elders of Uruk and even the sun god Shamash warn them of the danger. Yet the two heroes press forward, armed with divine weapons and blessed by Shamash's 7 winds, symbols of celestial aid. Gilgamesh is chasing eternity through legendary conquest, and Humbaba is the obstacle standing in the way. The cedar forest, sacred territory. Before encountering Humbaba, Gilgamesh and Enkidu must traverse the long journey into the unknown, a metaphorical and literal descent into a liminal world where human rules no longer apply. The cedar forest is not just a setting but a spiritual space. representing a threshold between human civilization and the gods' domain. In Mesopotamian culture, forests, especially cedar forests, held great symbolic power. Cedar was used for temple building, implying a sacred connection between the material and divine worlds. The forest's sanctity meant that violating it was an act of cosmic significance. This is why Humbaba's presence is so crucial. He doesn't just protect trees, he safeguards a holy order. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu arrive, they are struck by the grandeur and silence of the forest. It is awe-inspiring and unnerving. The presence of Humbaba looms large even before he appears. This emphasizes that what they face is not simply a monster but the very majesty of the divine wilderness itself. The confrontation, death, breath, and terror. When Humbaba finally emerges, he does so with the fury of a god. His terrifying face, sometimes described as capable of inducing death just by being seen, is one of the most vivid images in the epic. He is shrouded in 7 auras, terrors, possibly referring to radiant garments of power or magical layers of protection, which made him invulnerable. These auras instilled overwhelming fear in any who approached. As the battle begins, Gilgamesh is momentarily gripped by fear and uncertainty. It is Enkidu who encourages him, reminding him of their divine blessings and urging him not to hesitate. With the help of Shamash, who unleashes the 7 winds, the divine shields are stripped from Humbaba, rendering him vulnerable. Now exposed, Humbaba pleads for his life. He offers to serve Gilgamesh, to make him king of the forest, to cut cedars for him. This moment is crucial. It is not just a monster begging, it is the voice of divine nature asking for mercy. Enkidu warns Gilgamesh not to be swayed, arguing that the offer is a trick and that sparing Humbaba will enrage the gods. Ultimately, Gilgamesh strikes the fatal blow, and Humbaba is slain. The meaning of Humbaba's death. The slaying of Humbaba marks a turning point in the epic and in the moral journey of the heroes. On one level, they succeed in their quest. They have conquered a divine monster, cut down sacred cedars, and earned eternal fame. But on a deeper level, they have committed a spiritual trespass. They have defied the will of Enlil, desecrated a holy place, and killed a god's chosen guardian. Immediately after Humbaba's death, the gods begin to plot retribution. Enlil is enraged, seeing the act not as heroism but hubris. The killing of Humbaba plants the seeds of tragedy that will culminate in Enkidu's death, a direct consequence of the gods' wrath. Thus, the moment of triumph is also the beginning of sorrow. Humbaba's death serves as a reminder that heroic ambition can lead to divine punishment. The monster was not evil, he was a force of divine balance, and his death represents the imbalance humans create when they try to dominate the natural and spiritual worlds. Humbaba as symbol. Humbaba is more than a monster. He is a mythic symbol with several overlapping meanings. Nature's guardian, Humbaba stands for the untamed, sacred power of nature. He is terrifying not because he is evil, but because he represents something older, wilder, and more powerful than human beings can fully comprehend. Divine law and boundaries. Appointed by Enlil, he enforces the separation between divine realms and human ones. His death signifies the breaking of these cosmic boundaries. Mortality and fear. His breath of death and dreadful face symbolize the fear of death itself. He embodies the idea that some forces, like death, time, and divinity, cannot and should not be conquered. Consequence of hubris. The slaying of Humbaba is an act of pride, and it initiates the downfall of Enkidu and the eventual spiritual awakening of Gilgamesh. It teaches that reckless defiance of the gods has a price. The lasting legacy of Humbaba. Humbaba remains one of the most enduring and enigmatic figures in ancient mythology. His portrayal in art, literature, and scholarly discussion continues to evolve. In early Mesopotamian iconography, he is depicted with a grotesque face and coiled features, symbolizing his role as both protector and horror. In modern interpretations, Humbaba is often viewed as a victim, a divine being doing his duty, slaughtered by men seeking glory. His role challenges traditional ideas of good versus evil. In fact, Humbaba may be one of the earliest literary representations of ecological tragedy, the slaying of the sacred forest's guardian as a metaphor for humanity's destructive relationship with nature. Humbaba, the terrifying guardian of the cedar forest in the Epic of Gilgamesh, is more than a monster slain by heroes. He is a divine figure appointed by Enlil to protect the sacred and untouchable. With a deathly breath, a fearsome face and 7 layers of divine protection, he is a force to be reckoned with, not simply for his might but for what he represents. His defeat by Gilgamesh and Enkidu is both a legendary triumph and a fatal mistake. It embodies the tension between human ambition and divine order, between civilization and the wilderness, between mortality and immortality. Humbaba's death is the catalyst for the epic's tragic turn, reminding readers that true wisdom often comes too late, after the gods have spoken, and after nature's guardian lies dead beneath the cedar trees. Kamisats, the bat-like god monster of night, death, and sacrifice in Maya mythology. Kamisats, sometimes spelled Kamazats or Kamazats, is a formidable figure in ancient Maya mythology, often depicted as a terrifying bat-like deity or monster. His name is usually translated from the Kitsch Maya language as Death Bat or Death Bat God, derived from K meaning death and Sats meaning bat. Kamisats embodies the dark and mysterious forces of the night, death, sacrifice, and the underworld, serving as an archetype of the dangerous and supernatural. His mythological significance is profound, especially as described in the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Kitsch Maya, which contains the creation myths and heroic tales foundational to Maya culture. In the Popol Vuh, Kamisats features prominently in the perilous journey of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, particularly in the harrowing episode known as the House of Bats, where the god monster tests and confronts the twins, resulting in the decapitation of one of them. The bat symbolism in Mesoamerican culture. Bats are creatures of the night, often misunderstood and feared due to their nocturnal habits, association with darkness and their eerie, sometimes grotesque appearance. In Mesoamerican cultures, including the Maya, Aztec and others, bats often symbolize death, the underworld and the supernatural. The Maya saw bats as creatures that could traverse between worlds, the surface world of the living and the shadowy realms beneath. They linked bats to caves, which were gateways to the underworld, Xibalba, and to night and darkness, realms connected with mystery and death. Bats were also associated with sacrifice, as their blood-drinking habits resonated with ritual bloodletting and offerings to the gods. Kamisats, as a bat god, represents these darker aspects of existence. Death, the night's dangers and the sacrifices necessary for cosmic balance. The Popol Vuh and the hero twins' journey. The Popol Vuh is the central sacred narrative of the Kitsch Maya, composed after the Spanish conquest but preserving ancient oral traditions. Among its most famous tales are the adventures of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, demigods who face various trials in the underworld, Xibalba. The twins' quest involves confronting death gods and overcoming death itself to bring life, fertility, and order to the world. One of the key episodes in their journey is their encounter with Kamisats in the House of Bats, one of the several death trials set by the Lords of Xibalba. The House of Bats, a chamber of death trials. In Xibalba, the underworld realm ruled by death gods, the hero twins face a series of deadly tests designed to kill them or break their spirits. One such trial is the House of Bats, or Bat House, a dark, cavernous chamber filled with monstrous bats. It's in this chamber that Kamisats makes his fearsome appearance. According to the Popol Vuh, the twins enter the House of Bats expecting to face a deadly challenge. Kamisats, as the lord of this chamber, attacks Hunahpu, the elder twin. Using his sharp bat-like claws or wings, Kamisats swiftly decapitates Hunahpu, severing his head from his body. This act is symbolic on many levels. The bat god enacts death, severing life from the body, plunging Hunahpu into a literal and figurative state of death. Symbolism of the decapitation. Decapitation is a powerful motif in Mesoamerican mythology and ritual. It represents not only death but also sacrifice, transformation, and the cyclical nature of life and death. By decapitating Hunahpu, Kamisats is enforcing the power of death and sacrifice. However, in the myth, death is not the end. Hunahpu's severed head remains alive in some versions and later plays a role in resurrection and rebirth, key themes in Maya mythology and religion. The severed head also symbolizes a form of cosmic punishment and purification. The hero twins' death and rebirth symbolize the cycles of the sun, May's growth, and the regeneration of life from death, central to Maya cosmology. Kamisat's attributes and depictions. Iconographically, Kamisats is depicted as a humanoid figure with bat wings, sharp claws, and a menacing visage. His features combine human and bat traits, emphasizing his liminal nature, existing between worlds and embodying both human fears and divine power. Kamisat's association with caves, night, and darkness underlines his role as a psychopomp, a guide or guardian of souls traveling between life and death. He is both feared and respected, a god monster who demands sacrifice but also maintains cosmic order. Night, death, and sacrifice, Kamisat's domains. Night. Kamisats governs the night, the time when darkness reigns and the natural world is vulnerable to unseen forces. Night is a symbol of mystery, danger, and transition. Bats, nocturnal creatures, naturally represent this domain. For the Maya, the night was also a time of spiritual activity and transformation, a liminal phase between death and rebirth. Death. Kamisats embodies death itself, the inevitable end that all beings face. His role in the House of Bats trial shows him as an enforcer of death, a figure that brings about the final passage from life to the underworld. Sacrifice. Sacrifice was central to Maya religion. Blood offerings and ritual killings were believed to sustain the gods and maintain cosmic balance. Kamisat's bloodthirsty nature and the violent severing of the hero twins' head echo the sacrificial rituals. His role symbolizes the necessary sacrifices that sustain the universe and allow for regeneration and continuation. Comparative mythology, Kamisats and other death bats. Kamisats is not unique as a bat deity in Mesoamerican belief. The Aztec, for example, had a bat god named Zapolot or Zopalotl, associated with death and the night. Bats generally appear in many indigenous cultures worldwide as creatures connected to death, the underworld, or as guardians of sacred places. Kamisats stands out in Maya mythology because of his direct involvement in the heroic narrative of the Popol Vuh. He is a concrete, physical threat that the heroes must overcome, symbolizing the harsh realities of death and the tests the soul must face. The hero twins triumph and the defeat of Kamisats. Although Kamisats decapitates Hunahpu in the myth, the story does not end there. The hero twins eventually outwit the lords of Xibalba, including Kamisats, through cunning, magical powers and ritual knowledge. They resurrect Hunahpu, restore his head, and overcome death itself. This victory represents the triumph of life over death, order over chaos, and light over darkness. Kamisat's defeat is crucial. It shows that even the most fearsome god monsters can be overcome, and death itself is not the final word. Cultural significance and legacy of Kamisats. Kamisats' figure is emblematic of the complex Maya worldview, where death and sacrifice are not purely negative but are integral to the cosmic order. Life, death, and rebirth are intertwined, and the gods, both benevolent and terrifying, play roles in maintaining this balance. Modern interpretations of Kamisats highlight his place as a symbol of fear, mortality, and transformation. His image appears in contemporary art, literature, and popular culture as a representation of ancient Maya spirituality and the mysteries of the night and death. Summary. Kamisats is a bat-like god monster from Maya mythology, deeply associated with the night, death, and sacrifice. His most famous role is in the Popol Vuh, where he appears in the House of Bats, a death trial chamber in Xibalba, the underworld. There, Kamisats decapitates Hunahpu, one of the hero twins, symbolizing death's power. As a deity, Kamisats represents the dark and fearsome aspects of the cosmos, the dangers of the night, the inevitability of death, and the necessity of sacrifice. Yet, his story is part of a larger narrative about overcoming death and achieving resurrection, mirroring the cycles of nature and life itself. Kamisats stands as a powerful mythic figure embodying the tensions between life and death, darkness and light, fear and triumph. His legacy endures as a reminder of the mysteries and profundities of ancient Maya religion and mythology. Thanks for watching our countdown of the top 10 mythical monsters that terrorized ancient civilizations. These legendary creatures reveal how ancient people made sense of the unknown and feared the forces beyond their control. If you enjoyed exploring these dark myths and mysterious beasts, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a journey into history's deepest shadows. Share your favorite monster or any myths you know in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. Until next time, stay curious and beware what lurks in the ancient night.